Hey paddlers, I'm Rod Clayton with the Paddle Channel, and I hate being cold.
Woo!
Last week Barry talked about his winter paddling kit. You may want to check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. This week I'm gonna follow up with my winter paddling kit, which is a little bit different from Barry's. Now before we get started, I'm gonna tell you, I used to like the cold. I used to like paddling in the cold. I still like paddling, but I don't like being cold. And staying warm has become much more important to me for several reasons. Number one, I'm aging. One of the things that starts to happen as we get older, physiologically speaking, that makes it a lot more difficult for us maturing paddlers to deal with the cold is that the elasticity of our blood vessels starts to decrease. That just means that now we have decreased blood flow, and it makes it a lot tougher for the body to handle temperature regulation like it used to when we were young whippersnappers.
Woo! That is not warm.
Another thing that tends to happen is that we start to lose subcutaneous fat. Now, especially in America, as we get older as a population, we start to pick up body fat, white adipose tissue, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about subcutaneous fat, the fat that's just under the skin. And that's a big insulating layer, and we tend to lose that as we get older. So that's another insulating factor that's gone as we start to age more and more.
Ooh, wow. Oh, it's cold.
The third thing that's happening is that we also start to lose brown adipose tissue, or BAT. You may have heard it referred to as brown fat or beige fat, and that is actually a thermogenic fat. It helps generate body heat, and we start to lose that as we get older too. So there are three physiological factors that are very real, and they make temperature regulation a much more important issue for, you know, us wiser and older guys and gals.
You're cold, aren't you? We're cold. Yeah.
In the past year, I've had two fairly serious hypothermic events. One of those was where we broke our surf skis. Barry and I both broke surf skis on the same day within 30 seconds of each other coming in through the inlet. If you haven't seen that video, be sure to check it out. Ended up spending about 45 minutes swimming, pushing the ski, and had someone not come along. I was wearing neoprene paddling pants and just a regular synthetic workout shirt. Had someone not come along and given us a ride right after we got out of the water, I would have been in pretty serious trouble. I was down to the whole shivering, not thinking straight, couldn't talk. So that was bad. The other hypothermic event that I had, we ended up having to walk through 50-degree water for a bit and then paddling out of the inlet that day. I was already soaked. The wind was blowing around 25 miles an hour. I was getting just soaked repeatedly. And about an hour from home, I was just shivering uncontrollably. And once you get to that point, I don't care how hard you work, it's really, really hard to warm up. And that day I was just wearing a neoprene paddling shirt, neoprene 1.5 mil pants, but the wind was blowing at 25 miles an hour. And so the wind chill just got me that day. And it took me several hours to recover from being that cold. It was, had the whole thing, blurred vision, everything. You don't want to do it. So really, really important that you take care that you keep yourself warm while you're on the water. Most of the time, I'm not cold at all on the water, and it's really not a factor. When I start to get really cold is when we get off the water. So there are kind of two levels of this. One is safety, the other is comfort, and both of them are important. Let's talk feet. Standard booties, no big deal. I think these are 5 mil booties that are super thin. I've never understood the millimeter system for neoprene. It's like take what they say and cut it in half. Nothing special here, except here's a special tip that I found really helps a lot. Order your booties one size too large. What I found was with booties that fit my feet, they actually restricted circulation just a little bit, and my feet got really cold. So when I started wearing booties that were a size too large, I found I had better circulation and my feet tended to stay warmer. If it's very cold, getting down into the 30s, the 20s or below, I wear these babies. And it looks like something that Bad Santa would bring, to bring coal or switches and hang on your mantle. But this is a neoprene sock. It's a very thin neoprene sock. I think it's 90% neoprene, 10% nylon. If you layer this under the booties, you're not going to feel the cold at all. This works really, really well for me. I've also layered under the booties with wool socks, something like Smart Wool, and that does work fairly well. But this layering system here, the neoprene socks plus the booties, tends to keep my feet very, very warm. Okay, for lower body, nothing special. Most of the time, 1.5 mil neoprene paddling pants seem to work really, really well unless the wind is really blowing. If the wind's really blowing, then I'm going to the dry suit. Upper body, neoprene paddling shirt, that's where it's at. Really like this one. The Maka paddling, has the hydrophobic front. That's really nice. This has been a really good option. But again, if the wind is really blowing and you get wet, you're going to need some type of wind shell or something to keep the wind off of you. I have not tried the Vycobi jackets. I'm looking at getting one of those. So if you guys have a specific paddling jacket that you like a lot, chime in below and let us know. I'd love to hear what your comments are, what your experience has been with that type of paddling jacket. Headgear is nothing special. If it's sort of cold, I'll just wear this thin knit cap here. If it's really cold, I wear this cap that has the lining and it really keeps the wind off my head. These are good because you can rip them off when you have to if you overheat. You know, keeping your head warm, that's where you're going to lose most of your body heat, so keeping your head warm is really important. Let's talk hands. Keeping your hands warm is extremely important. So what I found is if my hands are cold, the rest of the body soon follows. So if I don't keep my hands warm, I'm probably going to have a cold day. However, wearing almost any type of glove seems to interfere with paddling. You lose the feel for the paddle, and I'm constantly slipping off the paddle. But I would rather paddle and paddle carefully, paddle a little more slowly, and kind of fight the gloves than have really, really cold hands. So I found 2 mil gloves, better than nothing, but my hands are always cold in these. These 5'3" gloves, I love these things, but they're great for surfing, super warm. My hands have never been cold in these, even down surfing, you know, when the air temperature's like in the 20s. Haven't been cold, but I can't hold on to a paddle in these. So the compromise for me when I'm paddling stand up or I'm paddling OC1 would be these 3 mil gloves. Still a little bit thick, still fighting to hold the paddle. I still miss the paddle every once in a while, but I found that they do keep my hands warm. If you are a surf ski paddler, you're in luck because you can utilize the magic when it comes to keeping your hands warm, and that would be these jokers right here. Pogies are the absolute best that I found for keeping hands warm. There are many, many days when we're paddling and my hands are completely warm and Barry's hands are completely not warm. He can be fairly miserable over there, and it surprises me when I pull my hand out of the pogies as to how cold it is out there, because my hands are just completely warm. Even if I wipe out, say coming in through the inlet, and I tend to wipe out and everything gets full of water, hands don't get cold. It just warms right back up inside of there. So if you paddle surf ski and you paddle in the winter, I would say this is essential kit, pogies. Here's my secret old man weapon, the dry suit. Now, I don't look apparently very cool in the dry suit, I'm told, which is sort of hurtful, Barry, but I don't really care because this thing helps me stay warm. It's pretty amazing. This particular suit's made by Starboard. I don't think they sell these anymore. I think the closest thing you get now is the original that this suit was based off of, which is the Supskin. And it's lightweight, super lightweight. It's breathable. It's wind resistant. It's sort of everything you would want in a paddling dry suit. Layering under the dry suit. What do you wear? That's always, I'm actually really surprised at how warm the dry suit is, because it does form a wind barrier. You actually stay fairly warm, especially if you're working in the dry suit. A lot of times I'll wear just an old pair of cycling tights underneath the dry suit. You do have to be careful with the cycling tights that you pull them up above the ankle. Otherwise, the seal around the ankles will not fully form, and you'll end up getting water up the leg if you're doing like a water entry. My favorite setup though, better than the cycling tights, neoprene paddling shorts. Keep you warm even when water, very, very frigid water, starts shifting into the bucket. And cycling knee warmers. These come up, they cover your quads, they cover your knee, but they leave your lower leg free so that you always get a good seal on from that gasket, the ankle gasket on the dry suit. I have yet to be cold wearing the knee warmers and the neoprene paddling shorts. Upper body layering. If it's around 50 degrees, it's too warm for the dry suit. When it gets down to 40, when the wind chills down in the low 30s, that's when I usually wear, it's nothing special, just a synthetic shirt underneath the dry suit. A lot of times I'll just have a synthetic t-shirt underneath the dry suit, and that seems to work pretty well. I've yet to just get really, really cold in the dry suit. This is my favorite. Okay, that's it. That's my winter paddling kit. You've hung on till the end, so I'm going to share with you 4 tips that I've learned that surprised me, but really, really help my winter paddling experience. Tip number 1, get dry as soon as you can. So immediately after you get off the water, get out of your wet paddling clothes. Even if you're wearing a dry suit, there's a pretty good chance that you have been sweating underneath, even the breathable dry suit that I have. Get yourself into some warm clothes right away. We have found that that is the #1 factor for not getting seriously cold after paddling.
Okay, what do you think of that surf robe?
I like it.
I mean, you look good in it.
My hands are cold.
The stripes do kind of make you look wide though.
If you don't have a surf robe or a changing robe, you should definitely check one out. It allows us to quickly change, stay warm while we're changing. You can just strip off the wet gear underneath. That was a surprise to me. Barry kind of got me turned on to those, and I was really, really surprised at what a big difference that makes as far as warmth after paddling. Tip number 2, another piece of kit. It's not what I take on the water with me, because again, I don't get that cold most of the time when I'm paddling on the water, but it's starting out dry makes a big difference. And you should get yourself one of these babies. The boot dryer is amazing. So I dry booties, pogies, gloves, even neoprene pants using the boot dryer, hats. Pretty much everything I dry using the boot dryer, and it makes a huge difference if you start out the day nice and warm. Tip number 3, and you're going to be like, duh, that's not brilliant, but none of these are. They're just things that I've kind of learned along the way and that make a big difference. I've started taking a thermos full of hot chocolate and leaving it in the truck when we paddle. So when we come off the water, I get dry right away, and then on the way home, I'm sipping on the hot chocolate on the way home. You could use hot tea, you could use coffee, whatever. Some type of hot drink on the way home has made a world of difference in how I feel after the paddle. And tip number 4, again, it's kind of common sense, but I've gotten myself in trouble because I ignored it, is always be prepared for the worst case scenario. Okay, that's it. That's my winter paddling kit. Dry suit, it's the bomb. If you can get one, do it. If you can't get a hold of a dry suit, especially something, a lightweight paddling dry suit like that, then I would recommend that you definitely have a paddling shell or some type of wind breaking shell, so that'll keep the wind off of you. I can usually handle being wet until the wind starts blowing, and that's really when the hypothermia starts. So until next time, we'd love to hear what you guys use, the conditions you paddle in, what pieces of kit you found most important to staying warm, and also any tips or hints or tricks that you have. Paddle on, guys. We'll talk to you later.